während des ersten Jahres für Kost und Logis. Und der
Hi.
Staat bietet ihnen Hebräischkurse und eine
I
Berufsausbildung.
love the state of Israel. I can tell you, compared to the United States, well, I love this. I love this program that I'm watching right now, but it brought me to a deep concern about
Israel nimmt 25.000 von ihnen auf, wenn sie
about
Angehörige vor Ort haben. Finanzielle Unterstützung oder eine
the United States
Krankenversicherung
versus
gibt es für
Israel.
sie nicht.
And I don't mean in a
Diese Bilder von Geflüchteten, die auf dem Boden des
kind of a
Flughafens
battle
von Tel Aviv
or a
kampieren
war
müssen,
kind of way.
schockierten
I mean
Menschenrechtsaktivisten.
in a way that shocked
Zoe
me
Goodside leitet eine
as
Ambulanz, in der
far as as it relates to human rights and other things. Something is really wrong in America because the way it chooses to treat the human being is much more difficult to feel comfortable about in the USA than it is in the state of Israel. For instance, the reliance on forcing women to strip and work as in prostitution or in dancing just to afford basic whatever. In America, it's almost 100% certainty. We're coming off of a 17,000 person increase in refugees from different countries all over the world to just New York City in the last 2 weeks. I'm sure there's a lot more than that. Now, I googled the number of strip clubs that there are in the United States, and I came up with a number of 4,000. There's 4,000 strip clubs, and I know that America it's great because it's a free country, but I think that it's a dangerous work, and the government should do what it can, because that's about 400,000 lives of women, probably aged from 18 and 18 and older. Maybe in some cases, in some states in California, I don't know what the age is, but what concerns me is the right to a right to a positive life, a good life, and a happy life, and a safe life for all women, especially with the influx of refugees coming from war and coming from poverty and just looking for not freedom, but looking for a safe place. Israel gives 1,500 euros a month for the first year to all the refugees from Ukraine, which is amazing and it's great. But the USA, I think, gives none. And watching and thinking about Fox News and thinking about Trump and thinking about the border wall or thinking about Clintons and thinking about Iraq and Afghanistan and Islam and Judaism living together and Christianity and other religions, you think it's people. It's not just about religions. It's not about finding differences between people with religion. It's not about finding differences between people with nationality and stuff like that. But we do. I mean, the world has found lots of that in the last 20 years, last 25 years. It's found globally a globalist way of encouraging differences between people, and not only that, but it has created a capitalistic society that is growing somehow. Not growing, but it's created a capitalistic society which many of the prophets, the great prophets of religion, would seem would love to would speak out against. I think when it comes to the safety of men, the safety of women, and the safety of men that have to stay on the street and deal drugs, or the women who have to work dangerous jobs, and also the men who are trained to live dangerous lifestyles, namely in the USA, where gun rights are, gun freedom to own guns is so legal and so popular. So I don't know. I just found it beautiful, and the way that a country can rely less on promoting sexism, and I do think that having so many strip clubs is a result of sexism, and I hope that there's some sort. I hope there are ways that America. It's a shame, actually. I think it's sad for me. It's sad that it's not so easy for America to just say, this is a country. We're a country who can afford to give women and men in college less of a problem when it comes to paying for college and housing in college and getting an education, getting a right to a life, and getting a right to learn. I think learning, especially during coronavirus, became insanely difficult for a lot of people. Reading became difficult. Having the right to read, having the right to do anything except fight for what Trump wanted you to fight for, or what the coronavirus wanted you to fight for, became very difficult. And not knowing where it came from and who it is, makes that even. But having a country that needs so much power, like the United States, which doesn't give anything back to the people, but only demands capitalism, and only demands it only demands freedom, but at the same time it demands capitalism. It doesn't give any help to the millions and millions of people who seriously do need help, and those millions, I think, have to blame it on race and what they hear in the movies and what they hear in the music, and what they hear not in music, but what they hear coming out of the presidential debates, and what makes universities popular. But the hatred is too much. The level of extremism was just really too much in the last 4 or 5 years, and you see a result of an election that might come up in with Trump versus Biden, or Trump versus Clinton, and personally, I obviously wish that that there would be just nothing but peace and happiness for everybody, and that nobody would have to work or do anything if they didn't want to, and they could all have an equal amount of money every month just to be peaceful and just to live peacefully, so that nobody would ever have to worry about gun violence. Nobody would ever have to worry about hunger. Nobody would ever have to worry about people that just don't have good intentions in mind. And I think that you see so many celebrities trying to make it. You see trying to do different things. I think celebrities. The film and the music industry trains so many celebrities to feed off of the innocence of people who are trying to do good things in and humanities and do good things in other countries, but instead of being able to, the elites use the banks and they use the music industry and the film industry to basically destroy the reputations of those of people who aren't pro pro Illuminati, or not just pro Illuminati, but pro capitalism and they have too much tolerance for injustice. There's many celebrities, if they try to stop having a tolerance for injustice, I mean, you see, they can't do it. So the real issues of the world never really gets solved, which are hopefully which are that. Which are that people are not blacklisted from Hollywood and not blacklisted from cinemas and not blacklisted from Netflix and not blacklisted from being famous and from being rich and being scholars. But that's what happened. That's what the USA has done to people. And that's what the USA did to people during the Cold War. That's what the USA is doing to people since the Ukraine War, and since before the Ukraine War, ever since even before since the war on terror began. Education for the youth is in a system where the profit of other people come first. The profits for other things come first. The profits for banks and oil, or even if you want to go green, there's still that has nothing to do with the philosophy of making sure that the wars well, maybe it does, but making sure that people can never accuse people so much of racism as they've done since, and go to war over racism and fight over things that
only being hypocrites about allows us to fight over. If you looked at, one example is my own rights as a Persian American, or Persian European, or Iranian European, Iranian American, is that I've had to fight against the struggle over the culture that is known about my people, and for us to have two different cultures, to where everybody knows that there's one culture of Iran that you see in America, and then there's another culture you don't see, which is the culture that, well, you see it in the protests going on, in the protests in Iran now. I'm sure black people are also, African Americans also have this separation between America and their own personalities and their own cultures and their own perspective of who they are. And I'm sure that just because there's a famous black people, that doesn't mean that there aren't black people who look at movie screens and say, that's not what being black is. There's not black people who look at this and that and say, that's not what being black is. And even if that is what black is, that's not what I want as black, because it's still in the system of of doing something that is so commercial that's so commercial that I don't want to do it. There's so much commercialism, even in communist, even in what they call liberal communist movies or whatever, or socialist movies. There's still commercialism, and to and there's a selling of there's not. The kind of racism that I experienced during Donald Trump uh, was that if I wasn't the kind of guy to hang out in strip clubs and drive a fancy car, then I was too smart. I was too smart to be famous or to be a scholar or to be a film star or a rock star or something. And it wasn't just Trump that was saying that to me. It was the old State Department. It was the kind of establishment that that people had tried to do. I mean, I don't. For me, it's like selling terrorism was the goal of the United States and other powers, and selling people as either one religion or another religion was also the goal of this and that. And the easiest, I mean, the way they're trying to get away, the way they try to, so they seriously tried to get away with doing that by spreading lies about me to the whole celebrity community. And it has nothing to do with, well, there's you do want to ask all of America, what is it that, I'm not talking about the there's a big difference between white culture and the immigrants that are in New York. So I'm speaking to, it feels like the people that if the people that I'm speaking to are people who think that the reason I'm not famous in America is because I'm not. Okay, I mean, you look at a lot of people say, why don't you why don't you tell us why there's to get a profession in a job in this culture. It's like there's the two parts of society I see in New York and similar cities. There will be really two. There will be socialism, but then there will be education, and those will be the two societies. I don't see, and I see the way that, I mean, I don't see some people won't be able to concentrate and go to school anymore, but sadly enough, those are people who have really those are people who would really have a lot to, are really smart and have really good ideas for community. People are forced to feel guilty about the popularity of calling one race one thing and one race another thing, and forcing people not to be able to protest the way people used to. Used to have really philosophical studies and shows in the 60s or what have you, about war and racism and civil rights and stuff like that. But I think there's a culture of just doing drugs and paying and being musicians that one has to understand is run by a system where system where you cannot teach what you want to teach yourself. You have to teach what a university will allow you to teach. Maybe that's the case, maybe it's not the case. But you have rap music to where you want to. I mean, you don't want to do rap, but you instead of rap, you want to be a painter or something. Be a painter, and you don't want to make any music at all. But you're kind of forced into it by a rap world that looks. That finds anyone who came close to using Trump to do things like create a revolution in the Islamic Republic of Iran, and look at that person and call him and his family a racist family, and call that person and him and his family white or other things. And is that right? Is that right to you people? I mean, I think. I mean, if you let's see. Flying is scary, teaching is scary, thinking about living in New York is scary. It's difficult. It's scary to think about what life is going to be like in New York. I mean, is it? I see these pictures and I freak out and I start thinking, are these people going to? Are they going to just start being socialist and like what happened in Venezuela? Or are they going to be more like what's going on in Israel? So I think those are important perspectives to think about and yes, and hopefully it won't be scary, and hopefully the dreams of all the youth and all the people that are in America now are going to be dreams of really great togetherness and happiness and positivity and creativity and artistic behavior and very nonviolent and just full of just happiness and selfishness. And hopefully the banks in America will be the same way. Hopefully the banks and the politicians and everybody will use it as an opportunity to just say, hey, we should all be happy and glad and thankful that we're all alive and able to contribute something creatively in all the ways possible in their country and not keep anyone in poverty or oppression or depression and down and enslaved or bullied or anything, and make sure that New York becomes a great city again, and that Miami the whole country becomes like that. So don't give up on supporting the arts, and don't give up, but don't let the arts become a place where the topic of the whole thing is whether or not people would continue to look to outshining people, or continue to try and fight about who's a Trump and who's a racist or who's looking for trouble, who's looking to keep people out.
and who's looking to buy guns, and who's looking to shoot people. There's got to be a different solution. There's got to be different things to hope about and think about and get shine from. There's just so many Coca-Colas and sodas and hamburgers and chicken nuggets and clothing and cars, and hopefully the guns are going to be the last thing that I don't know if immigrants have can legally purchase weapons, but if they're being influenced by American media and history and capitalism and music, and if they want to try and do the same thing to America that they did to America, which that's what it seems like to me, it seems like they are going to try and do. The best thing to do would be to lobby for an end to guns, but obviously tell the kids as much as possible not to promote violence in music and everything these days. That's number one suggestion for the education community and for the music community as well.